Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees and here are today's top stories. Britain is urging the United States to extend evacuation from Kabul airport beyond its end-of-month deadline. Ministers say without the American presence, other countries will have no choice but to give up their operations. Prime Minister Boris Johnson grants visas for an ex-Royal Marines staff at an Afghanistan animal sanctuary.
But I'm not going until my staff leave this country.
And the world's first law to protect children online will take effect next month. We hear from the driving force behind this legislation, a famous filmmaker and peer. Britain is urging the United States to extend its evacuation effort in Afghanistan beyond the 31st of August deadline. Ministers say without the American presence, other countries will have no choice but to stop their own operations at Kabul airport. NTD's Joy Duguid has more on this.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson plans to press US President Joe Biden to extend the evacuation deadline at an emergency meeting of G7 leaders on Tuesday. Some UK military leaders have said Britain should keep troops at Kabul airport to continue the evacuation effort, even if the Americans leave. But Armed Forces Minister James Heappey says it will not be possible because the US military is not just providing security, but delivering all necessary airfield services.
There is a hard reality that there would be no international airlift without the way that the United States are underpinning it.
He says an extension may not be feasible even if the US agrees, because it will need approval from the Taliban.
But I think everybody has to be clear that this is not just a discussion that happens amongst G7 leaders tomorrow. It's a discussion that then happens with the Taliban. If there's the opportunity to stay, we will. But right now, our military planning is focused on leaving on the 31st.
His words were echoed by Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. He says Britain must exploit every minute to get people out of Kabul.
I don't think there is any likelihood on staying on after the United States. If their timetable extends even by a day or two, then that will give us a day or two more to evacuate people, because we are really down to hours now, not weeks, and we have to make sure we exploit every minute to get people out.
Biden has not ruled out extending the airlift beyond the end of August, but says he hopes it will not be necessary. British forces have evacuated nearly 6,000 people from Kabul in the last 10 days. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
On an American evacuation plane on Saturday, the US Air Force says an Afghan woman gave birth to a baby girl moments after landing at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. The Air Force wrote on Twitter that the mother went into labor and began having complications. The aircraft commander decided to descend in altitude to increase air pressure in the aircraft, which helped stabilize and save the mother's life. Still images show the moment medical personnel rushed to help on the tarmac. The Air Force said both the mother and baby were transported to a medical facility and were in good condition. An ex-Royal Marines wish is granted. His Afghan staff and their immediate families have got UK visas after the Prime Minister's intervention. NTD's Joy Duguid has the story.
A former Royal Marine who founded an animal sanctuary in Afghanistan says Boris Johnson has granted a visa for his staff and their families. Paul Farthing, known as Penn, urges his followers on Twitter to send love to the Prime Minister. Farthing refused to evacuate without his Afghan staff and their families after the Taliban swept into Kabul.
My staff don't deserve the fate that is going to await them if they stay here in Afghanistan. So I had an opportunity, the fact that, I am a British citizen, so I'm going to use that to full effect. So that's why I said I'm not going until my staff leave this country.
Farthing served as a Royal Marine for 22 years, fighting in Helmand province in 2006. A year later, he set up the Nozad animal shelter, named after his first rescue dog. Since then, Farthing has built up a staff of 25 Afghan nationals. He says his staff are scared by the Taliban's return.
the 3 young women I have that work for us are the first ever female vets in Afghanistan. I mean, they're absolutely terrifying. They are literally terrifying. I can't do justice to try and describe how terrified they are. And who could blame them?
Farthing says his animal sanctuary could be in trouble. The Taliban banned women from working and disapproved of dogs as pets under their previous rule.
There may be reprisals because obviously we're a foreign organisation. We've helped soldier rescues in the past, so soldier rescuing dogs.
He says the feeling around his community is calm, despite the Taliban patrolling the streets. He says the most dangerous area is the airport, where thousands are attempting to board evacuation flights. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
A Cambridge-educated doctor who fled Afghanistan for the UK 20 years ago worries that his family still suffers in the embattled country. NTD's 88 Ken brings us the details.
Wahid Aryan fled Afghanistan over 20 years ago. He built a life for himself in the UK. But the war-torn country where he was born remains close to his heart. He says the recent violence has stirred his greatest fears.
On the phone, I have a very strong voice. The eldest brother is there for my 7 sisters, the eldest son for my father. And I try to console them, I try to tell them to stay calm, hope for the best, the future will be better, let's see what happens. But as soon as I put the phone down, I burst out crying.
Wahid and his family fled to Pakistan during the Soviet conflict in the 1980s. He stayed there in a refugee camp despite poor conditions, but later returned to Kabul after the Soviets withdrew. His family sent him to Britain when he was 15. Despite a chaotic childhood with little education, Wahid eventually studied medicine at Cambridge University. He now works for the NHS and founded a medicine charity called Aryan Teleheal. It helps doctors in Afghanistan consult with medical specialists worldwide, usually through mobile messaging platforms like WhatsApp.
Recently, over the past few days, we have been receiving blast injuries, all the traumas that have been coming from the recent fighting.
Wahid last visited Afghanistan in 2017. He doesn't know if he'll see his family there again.
My sisters are married, they've got their own children, and they've told me, where do we leave? Where do we go? All our children are here, relatives are all here, and my father simply put it to me that I'm tired of running. If I'm gonna die, I might as well just die here in this country.
For this troubled country, the future remains uncertain. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
A new law to protect children online will take effect next month. The famous filmmaker behind the law talks about how she came up with the idea. NTD's Joy Duguid has more on this.
Filmmaker Baroness Beeban Kidron has been advocating for online child protection for years. Kidron said she had a profound realisation while making a documentary about the internet's effect on children.
A number of people who felt that they were founder members of the internet, of the digital world, and they were proud of the fact that their vision was to treat all users equally. And what I understood at that time and in that moment was if you treat all users equally, you treat a child as if they are adult.
Kidron is a driving force behind a new law taking effect on September the 2nd. The Age-Appropriate Design Code makes sure children's interests are the prime consideration in the design of online services.
It says when you deal with a child, you have to deal with them to a higher bar of privacy and a more considerate way. So for example, is, that you must not reveal their exact location. That's dangerous for a kid. You also can't economically exploit the fact that they're outside the chicken store and offer them an ad for that chicken store.
Violators will face penalties for non-compliance, 4% of revenue or £17 million. Kidron says for most people the issue of online safety for children is about pornography, violence and unwanted contact.
But actually, it's much more profound than that. It's you know, the hostility, the fake news, the sort of the popularity metrics, the commercialization and commoditization of childhood. It was the whole spectre.
The age-appropriate design code is the first law of its kind. The tech sector is already reacting. Google announced a raft of privacy changes for children who use its search engine and YouTube. TikTok is to limit the direct messaging of accounts belonging to 16 and 17-year-olds. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
PayPal announces it will allow UK customers to buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies starting this week. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
PayPal is expanding its cryptocurrency services to the UK. It will be the first time the company offers this service outside the US. With more than 400 million active accounts, the California-based company is one of the largest mainstream companies to offer consumers access to cryptocurrencies. PayPal launched its cryptocurrency buying and selling in the US earlier this year. It has enabled customers to use their digital coins to shop at the millions of merchants on its network. In the UK, PayPal will be competing against established cryptocurrency exchanges such as Coinbase. Customers will be able to buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies through their PayPal wallets online or on the app. Amid rising cryptocurrency prices, established financial companies have started offering their clients access to digital assets. But PayPal is warning potential customers of the risks of cryptocurrencies. In its terms and conditions, the company says buying and selling cryptocurrencies is inherently risky and speculative. You could lose the entire amount you have paid, as the value of cryptocurrencies is very volatile and unpredictable. PayPal also says its cryptocurrency service is not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority or subject to protection under the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
Thameslink Railway say they have discovered Legionella in a small number of their train toilets. Train Services Director at Thameslink told NTD. Very low level of Legionella was found to be present during testing in a small number of our Thameslink Class 700 train toilets. The trains were taken out of service. Legionella is a bacteria that causes a number of diseases, including Legionnaire's disease, a potentially fatal form of pneumonia. Thameslink said the water in their toilets is gravity-fed, which makes the prospect of spreading the bacteria extremely unlikely and further lowers the already very low risk. They added all other parts of the trains were unaffected, including the air conditioning systems. Thameslink says there are no trains in service with known traces of Legionella. And in other news, Health Secretary Sajid Javid promises to crack down on the cowboy behavior of companies with misleading prices for COVID-19 testing kits. NTD's Neil Woodrow has more on this.
Sajid Javid said it is absolutely unacceptable for testing companies to take advantage of holidaymakers by advertising misleading prices. He called it cowboy behaviour and says these latest actions clamp down on those companies. Under the move, 82 private travel testing firms are to be issued with a two-strike warning and could be removed from the government website. A further 57 firms are already set to be removed. The consumer rights group Which has condemned the government for taking nearly half a year to properly audit its own list of private test providers. Earlier this month, the Department of Health and Social Care said the cost of NHS test and trace tests for international arrivals would be reduced from £88 to £68. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
Environmental activists Extinction Rebellion gathered today at Trafalgar Square in central London, kicking off 2 weeks of protests. Demonstrations are scheduled in central locations, including St James Park, Piccadilly. More are due to take place in both North and South London. On Sunday night, 3 protesters scaled the entrance of Guildhall in central London. The Metropolitan Police say 9 people were arrested. Monday marks the start of the group's 5th mass protest. Activists are demanding the government stop investment in fossil fuels. Police are planning a significant operation to manage the protests over the coming busy bank holiday weekend. Still to come, Turkey is boosting security on its border with Iran to deter migrants from Afghanistan fleeing the Taliban. That and more after the break. Russian authorities on Friday took action against an independent TV channel and an investigative journalism site, labeling them foreign agents and detaining 7 journalists. NTD's Kostamines brings us the details.
The Russian Justice Ministry says the Dozd TV channel and the Vatsnie Story investigative journalism site have been labeled foreign agents. 7 journalists were detained on Friday. The crackdown implies increased government scrutiny and censorship.
It's absolutely an unconstitutional decision because we are doing journalism, and journalism is not a crime. The fact that we don't want to write stories that other pro-government media do doesn't mean that we violate something and that we are some foreign agents. I'm here to protest it and to support my colleagues.
Dozd's head Natalia Sindeyeva denounces the move as unfair. She says the TV channel has been transparent about its funding and financial history.
The punitive machine has toughened its action over the past year, branding one after another as foreign agent, an undesirable organisation, or an extremist. They find different ways. They've discovered an instrument with which to easily do away with media.
Dozd has been critical of Russian authorities' crackdown on dissenting voices, often reporting on protests. Sindeyeva says the move would make Dozd's work more difficult, discouraging companies from working with them and making newsmakers reluctant to come on air.
They want to shut us down, but we will try to continue working so as to show that there can be a free media in Russia, to show that you can disobey, stay true to your principles and not compromise.
Подчиниться, не предать своим принципам, можно не идти на компромиссы.
Russian authorities have applied similar tactics to other independent media. Kostamines, NTD News.
Tons of dead fish have washed up on the shores of one of Europe's largest saltwater lagoons in Spain. It sparked protests from residents over deteriorating environmental conditions and pushed local prosecutors to open an investigation. NTD's Eddie Aiken has the story.
Local residents in Spain protest on the weekend after 20 tons of dead fish washed up on the shores of one of Europe's largest saltwater lagoons. Campaigners say the damage to the Mar Menor lagoon in Murcia is not a new issue.
4 days now that there are appearing huge masses of dead fishes stranded at the beaches. And as from Ecologists in Action, we are warning decades ago, we are afraid that the whole lagoon has become a huge fertilizer pool.
The lagoon on Spain's southeastern Mediterranean coast was once a magnet for tourism and a sanctuary for marine life. In recent years, it has seen fish stocks plummet. The regional government blames the deaths on recent high temperatures. But ecologists and campaigners say runoff from nearby agricultural facilities and pollution from urban development has severely degraded the water quality.
All this makes that the huge runoff coming into the lagoon, full of phosphates, and the underground waters getting in overloaded with nitrates, are causing this disaster.
High levels of phosphates and nitrates in the water cause huge blooms of algae to flourish. These block out sunlight from penetrating the water and reduce oxygen levels, eventually suffocating marine life. Local prosecutors have opened an investigation. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
Some Afghan migrants fleeing the Taliban tried to make it through Iran. But Turkey began bolstering security on its border with Iran in recent months as the militants began advancing in Afghanistan. NTD's Kostamines has more on this.
Fearing a new refugee crisis, Turkey is reinforcing its border with Iran to stop an influx of Afghans fleeing Taliban rule. Afghans who make the weeks-long journey through Iran on foot now face a 3-meter wall mounted with barbed wire. A high presence of military and police special forces personnel watch for any movement on the Iranian side. Attack helicopters patrol the skies, and patrol cars drive around the clock along the border, from where migrants, smugglers and Kurdish militants frequently try to cross into Turkey.
No
matter how much high-level measures you take, there may be those who evade them from time to time. This happens from time to time when people take advantage of rainy and foggy weather conditions.
To deter migrants, Turkey began beefing up its border in recent months as the Taliban began advancing in Afghanistan.
We often see migrants approaching the border. When they see us at the borderline, they go back to Iran themselves. If anyone passes, we catch them on the first line or on the second line and deliver them to the relevant units.
The ones who make it through hide in barns or houses to avoid getting caught as they wait to be transported to western Turkey. In a recent raid, police reported that a total of 26 people were arrested, including 20 Afghans, 5 Pakistanis and 1 suspected human smuggler. Those captured are being brought to a migrant processing center where they have their fingerprints taken and go through security checks and health screening. This family was one of those at a center. They said they fled their home in Kabul 1 month ago before the Taliban came.
What motivation could we have? We had our own homes and lives there. When the Taliban came, we fled. We are not crazy to leave our home and life behind and flee from Kabul. We are from Kabul itself. We fled because they would have killed us there.
The husband said they are in danger there and cannot go back because he previously worked as a driver for the Americans. Costas, NTD News.
3 Hungarian companies are working together to make hydroponics crop production more efficient. Human-robot collaboration is at the core of their project. NTD's 88 Ken brings us this report.
A twist and a turn, this robotic arm is taking care of a hydroponics tower. The machine has been developed by 3 Hungarian companies who want to create a safe way for humans and robots to work together.
Hydroponic systems circulate nutrient-rich water, but this technology uses 90 or 95% less water than traditional agriculture.
Hydroponics grow plants without using soil by using mineral nutrient solutions. Automating the process can make it more efficient, but some parts still require human involvement.
We can go to full automatization. However, in some cases, there is still need for human interaction.
Ensuring safety between humans and robots plays a key role in the project. Robots are usually not intended to interact directly with humans, and people are often hesitant to work closely with robots.
We are still afraid to accept collaborative robots on a larger scale. And to promote the spread of these robots, we need to focus on safety and to generate acceptance for the robots.
Researchers say the hydroponics project shows humans and robots can work closely together. Further testing will take place on the relationship between man and machine. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
And finally, artisans in Ukraine are striving to keep an ancient profession alive. An ethnic group known as the Hutsuls started the country's axe-making tradition and passed it down for generations. NTD's John Robson has the story.
These ornate axes are one of the most prized handicrafts of the Hutsuls. This ethnic group now inhabits the Carpathian Mountains of Ukraine. In the Hutsul village of Brustery, a small number of craftsmen still possess the skills to make traditional axes.
I worked at the workshop with my grandfather. I watched how it was done, usually helping him. I'm self-taught. I've never learned to be a mozhyaznik axe maker. I didn't learn that in an institute.
Making a Hutsul axe is no easy task. The process begins with kindling a fire in a furnace. The temperature must reach over 1200 degrees Celsius. Metals are heated, then poured into a mould to make the axe head. In his workshop, Habarek then polishes the mould and crafts a wooden handle. His son drills holes for further embellishments.
We start to tap the coloured plastic for the pattern.
Habarak's wife completes the final step, decoration. The family can create 30 to 40 axes a month. Habarak is the 6th generation embracing the artistic metal craft. He's now passing on his knowledge to his 9-year-old son.
This is a tradition, that's why I will continue to keep it.
In the past, traditional axes were used for hiking in the mountains or work on the farm. Now they serve as accessories for weddings or other ceremonies. Hutzels wear traditional dress on special occasions, and for men, that includes axes.
If craftsmen refuse this profession, although it is not even a profession, it is a hobby, then it will disappear. It will only be history.
The axes sell for around £10. Local residents and tourists are the main customers. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.